Subject object first person singular I me second person singular you third person singular he him she her it. First person plural we us second person plural you third person plural they them. Defining possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns do exactly what it seems like they should do. Like all pronouns, they replace nouns in a sentence. Possessive pronouns help us show a noun's possession or ownership. However, they are different from possessive adjectives. Possessive pronouns, also called absolute or strong, possessive pronouns, are mine, yours, his, hers, its, ours, yours, and theirs. They replace a noun or noun phrase already used, replacing it to avoid repetition. I said that phone was mine. Possessive adjectives, also called weak, possessive pronouns, are my, your, his, her, its, our, your, and their. They function as determiners in front of a noun to describe who something belongs to. For example, I said that's my phone. Generally, you use possessive pronouns to talk about a person, place or thing that has already been explained. They prevent repetition in a sentence. Possessive pronouns are used to talk about things that belong to people. The words mine, yours, his, hers, ours and theirs are possessive pronouns. This book is mine. Have you lost yours, Tom? Examples of possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns help us to be more concise and use fewer words when explaining the same idea. Take a look at the examples below and see if you can understand one sentence better than the other. Those are my Converse sneakers. They are not your Converse sneakers. Those are my Converse sneakers. They are not yours. I didn't have my textbook for English class, so Brian lent me his textbook. I didn't have my textbook for English class, so Brian lent me his. Your travel plans sound just as exciting as my travel plans. Your travel plans sound just as exciting as mine. Practicing with possessive pronouns is the best way to familiarize yourself with them. Check out these examples that use italics for possessive adjectives and bold for absolute possessive pronouns. Your cat is adorable, but not as cute as ours. My pen won't work, can I borrow yours? The jewelry that the police accused Mr. Jones of stealing turned out to be his all along. Jim burned his dinner, so he asked Tina if he could share hers. Remember, possessive pronouns don't just substitute nouns, they show possession over a person, a place or a thing. Unlike possessive adjectives, however, they can stand alone. Singular personal pronoun. Possessive pronouns I, me mine you yours he, him his she, her hers. Plural personal pronoun. Possessive pronouns we, us ours you yours they, them theirs. Reflexive pronouns. Reflexive pronouns are words ending in self or selves that are used when the subject and the object of a sentence are the same, e.g., I believe in myself. They can act as either objects or indirect objects. The 9 English reflexive pronouns are myself, yourself, himself, herself, oneself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. Reflexive pronouns are words that refer to the noun or pronoun that is the subject of the verb. The words myself, yourself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves, yourselves and themselves are reflexive pronouns. Examples. My brother built this computer himself. John was looking at himself in the mirror. Grammatical terms might seem complicated and a bit arbitrary when you first hear them, but they really aren't, once you get to know them. The term reflexive is a good example. Through Latin, reflexive is related to reflect. This is useful to remember because a reflexive pronoun reflects back upon a sentence's subject. Reflexive pronouns are direct or indirect objects. A reflexive pronoun can be a direct object in a sentence when the subject and the direct object are one and the same. Jack decided to reward Mary with a dinner out. Jack decided to reward himself with a dinner out. In the first sentence, Mary is the object of reward. Jack, the subject, is the object of reward in the second sentence, so we use the pronoun himself. Reflexive pronouns can also play the indirect object role in a sentence. Cynthia pours a cup of tea for me every morning. Cynthia pours a cup of tea for herself every morning. It is worth noting that referring twice to the same noun as subject and object, rather than using a reflexive pronoun for the object, sounds just a bit creepy. Jack decided to cook Jack a special supper, for example, sounds unnerving to a native English speaker. Common errors with reflexive pronouns. The misuse of reflexive pronouns abounds in certain sectors. We're looking at you, business speak. The most common mistake of all is the incorrect use of reflexive pronouns in compound subjects or compound objects in a sentence. Here is an example of the former type of offense. Andrew and myself will conduct today's meeting. How do we know that myself does not belong as part of the compound subject, Andrew and the speaker, in this sentence? Remove Andrew from the equation to see if what remains functions correctly. Myself will conduct today's meeting. Clearly, myself does not work, but the subject pronoun I does. I will conduct today's meeting. Andrew and I will conduct today's meeting. The improper use of reflexive pronouns as objects is just as prevalent in today's business world. You may submit your expenses to Mr. Martin or myself before Friday. The subject of this sentence is you, and the indirect objects are Mr. Martin and the speaker. Taking Mr. Martin out of the sentence will reveal that myself will not work. You may submit your expenses to myself before Friday. Rather, the sentence requires the object pronoun me. You may submit your expenses to me before Friday. You may submit your expenses to Mr. Martin or me before Friday. Reflexive pronouns as intensive pronouns. Intensive pronouns are reflexive pronouns that are used to emphasize the subject or antecedent in a sentence, often in the sense of, and not someone else. You can tell when a word ending in self or selves is being used as an intensive pronoun because the sentence it is part of will not change in meaning significantly if you remove it. Jack made his supper himself. No one else did it for him. I closed the store on Saturday myself. I didn't have an employee to do it. We ourselves were forced to pilot the boat to safety. Perhaps the captain was indisposed. Reflexive pronoun for the singular they. The Associated Press has green-lit the singular they, as have the Chicago Manual of Style and the American Heritage Dictionary, among others. In the past, writers were encouraged to use the more traditional, more complicated, he or she in place of they for indefinite singular pronouns. But the singular they has been used for exactly this purpose for hundreds of years. Not to mention, the singular they has been adopted as a personal gender pronoun among the non-binary community. You can still use the awkward him or herself construction, but by no means do you need to. Every parent needs to take a break for themselves now and again. Every parent needs to take a break for himself or herself now and again. Every parent needs to take a break for him or herself now and again. Be careful not to cut yourself with that knife. Our cat washes itself after every meal. We baked the cake by ourselves. Come in, everybody, and find yourselves a seat. The children cleaned their room all by themselves. Bears like to rub themselves against a tree. The bird washed itself by splashing in a puddle. The players train every day to keep themselves it. Singular personal pronoun reflexive pronoun I. Subject pronoun. Myself me. Object pronoun. Myself you. Subject. Object pronoun. Yourself he. Subject pronoun. Himself him. Object pronoun. Himself she. Subject pronoun. Herself it itself. Plural personal pronoun reflexive pronoun we. Subject pronoun. Ourselves us. Object pronoun. Ourselves you. Subject. Object pronoun. Yourselves they. Subject pronoun. Themselves them. Object pronoun. Themselves.